big stakes game or whatever, but all these guys, there's like usually a bowl of candy because they need that sugar, and Red Bull.
It's amazing. They're probably like crazy like gamblers too. I would imagine that they bluff more often than the average person.
Some of them, yes, and some of them go off the rails. Some literally just doing it for social fun, like myself. But yeah, there's one guy sadly who not only is he a crazy gambler. I mean, he was in the hole several thousand, not on our games because we're talking 20, 40 bucks, but he was going to the casinos, and he was that cliche guy that just, all I need is one more hand, and I'll be good, I'll catch up.
Chip in a chair.
Yeah, it's like owning Mahoney. You ever see that? A chip in a chair. Yeah, these days it's more like a Venmo in a chair. And so he's not only did he go off the rails, with gambling, but apparently he's using again and is borderline homeless.
Oh boy.
That's tough. So I've been doing the Play-Doh app. Is there any there's a couple of houses on Clubhouse that have groups on Play-Doh. Is there any interest in the Muff having a Play-Doh group?
You want to put Play-Doh in the muff?
Yeah, I think if you use it carefully.
Blockages? I'm just asking for a friend.
Well, I would recommend in the Muff Play-Doh, but whatever works for you guys.
Is there really an app called Play-Doh?
Plato. Yeah, it's a gaming app.
It's a philosopher.
Yes.
Wow. And did you say, is it like this? Is it like Telegram or whatever? All these other fucking knockoff?
Yeah, well, you have friends, and then you can play with your friends, and you can play with strangers. And working on my Texas Hold'em. I'm not very good yet, but
again. Yeah, gotcha. I thought it was a social.
So they found one of the greatest minds in history and made a gaming app that's his name.
Yeah, that's awful. Like there's something turning over in his grave for sure.
Monica, would you ever play strip poker?
Don't punish us.
I'll take that as a yes.
In the Clubhouse movie, who would play Brad and Moose?
I think we decided that a young Robert Duvall, essentially the same character that he played in Apocalypse Now, he plays.
I would have gone with Liam Neeson. Nielsen? But okay.
No, he's a British guy. Brad's not a British guy.
You see, I think we pick our characters differently. Like, you're going for resemblance or what you imagine is resemblance. I'm going with character.
decision that you should be on a wagon because you know how to knit. I think that was the argument.
It wasn't, but continue.
Go ahead, correct me where I'm wrong.
No, I've already had this discussion with Andrew. I like your stories much better.
Was it crochet needles?
Comedy improv rooms at Kristen. She's fun.
Oh, thanks, Bruce.
I do believe her attack weapon was the crochet needles. Like she was like, I can attack somebody with crochet needles, and I think I rebuffed that.
Can we welcome? Hold on. Can we welcome John Kitover, who's running for Congress? John, thanks for joining.
Good evening. Kelly had me blocked, FYI, but happy to be here.
John, I have a question for you. During your breakup with Monica, like, what was did it end amicably, or was there a lot of vitriol?
I'd like to be funny right now, but because I've been waiting so patiently to come into this room where I was paged, I will defer back to anybody else who, wants to make a joke at Monica's expense.
Not I. I am Monica's defender.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have a problem with Monica. I think, she's a unique person in unique spaces, and I think she's funny. I think she does have a sense of humor, and she likes to have fun. So, I've always applauded her and Anne as well, and they organized the Clubby Awards, and I got Troll of the Year. So, and that's because of Monica. So, I'll be forever grateful to Monica for actually, making this a fun experience.
Did you actually get the statue? Did you get an acceptance speech and a payment and a gift bag?
It was good enough. It was good enough. It was the dopamine, and then the ability for me to go around and be introduced as Troll of the Year was credibility enough for me. Thank you, Monica.
Well, Anne created that, so you need to give her credit.
Oh,
It was a competition. How stiff was the competition for Troll of the Year?
Well, I mean, you had KB, you had Alex New York. I'm sure he probably. I would imagine it's different than you think.
That's not what she said.
it was a lot of work. It was during COVID. It was during, peak COVID when the worst of the worst on this app were holding daily shame rooms and encouraging everyone to take the Pfizer, Moderna, or J&J. And it was a dark time. Nobody was leaving their house, but at the same time, this app became a game, and you would get kicked from rooms. You'd have accounts deleted. I mean, it was a lot of work, and I got recognized for being funny, for using voices, for trolling people, for embarrassing people, and shaming people who are worthy of derision and shame. And they are, we can call them out by name, and they're not here right now because they're charlatans. They're snake oil salesmen. They're low IQ. They had no credibility. They hide behind anonymity, and it was toxic communication.
I mean, I will say.
Didn't Brown get an award for most likely to survive a zombie apocalypse or something like that?
Yes, he did.
Probably. Yeah.
Drop him in the volcano.
Yep. Edmund, I did stick up for you earlier. There is a young woman who was, I guess, an advisor to 3 administrations, particularly for the presidents. She hangs out in the situation rooms, and she stated that you need to be exiled.
I know, I heard.
Online platforms, and I stuck up for you.
I know, I heard. I'm in the audience right now as Anonymous live streaming this, and she claimed that I should either be put in a psychiatric facility or put in prison. And to me, I think all communication is projection. So that situation room advisor, whoever she is, and I know she loves abortion, and I know she loves her liberal whack job concepts, but God bless her, health, wealth, love to her, and everyone else on this app of incredible people.
Going down memory lane here with the Troll Awards. That, if I'm not mistaken, was when anyone on stage, you didn't have to be a moderator. If you had somebody blocked, they were not getting in the room. True or false?
I think that's true. I remember many stage being stick to the goo to get people in.
I believe the term was, I'm not here to talk, I'm just shadow banning. I have to say, one of my favorites on the right is Edward, who just joined. We agree to disagree on several topics, but I don't think I've ever heard Edward get mad or even insult anyone with any vitriol. He always remains a gentleman through the argument.
No, he has friends like me that don't do it for him, so he never even had that for it.
Exactly. It's like Wayne Gretzky having being hates to crush other people. He didn't need to get in any fights.
Brad got that right. He does.
Edward, what do you see? I know you're a Christian man. What does the Holy Spirit, tell you about peace, wisdom, and strength? And why do you think people on this app struggle so much emotionally, intellectually, but yet they keep coming back and really crashing out, getting angry, and spewing toxicity and stupidity?
I can't speak to everyone, but I think foundation is important. And when you love yourself, you don't project on other people. So I think that's a big issue in our society, actually worldwide. I've been to 54 countries, and I think a lot of people don't love who they are. They don't even love their family. They don't love their country. I can only bring to any relationship whoever it is. And that's how I try to always stand. I respect every human being. They're uniquely different than I am. And I believe in clarity over agreement. I don't care that everybody don't believe what I believe, but I don't have to agree with them. And I just try to keep that in the lane. That's what I try to do on a regular basis.
Edward, welcome to In the Muff. I hope you would join us in the Muff frequently.
I already joined you, bro. How
How are you enjoying the Muff?
So far, it's been a very interesting combo. You guys talk about Jordan, the type of Jordan Peterson, but there's some great things he's written and some things that's just his clinical background. But I take the meat and throw it bones. That's how I see it. I don't hate anyone.
Yeah, I would highly recommend the book Maps of Meaning, but his 10 rules, the more you read it, the more it's like Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, like I said, some of the stuff that he writes comes from his clinical or even he's counsel. I mean, there's just a lot of different things, but he does give, especially young men who don't have direction. I think he gave them some good advice. If they apply just a little bit, I think we have a better society.
I've never read anything about Jordan Peterson. That's interesting. So does he rhyme? Does everything he's saying in a rhyme to make it easier to learn?
It's just written for young children.
it's known as, work from home during the pandemic. Well, this is the grift from home.
So Roger, Rojo, answer the what's the terminology since I'm unfamiliar with it.
God, Edward, I like you too much to answer this question. Can I just not answer it?
Don't answer it. Don't answer it. Thank you very much. It is that appropriate. Edward, I'll just say this: you have putted in the mouth before in your lifetime, so you're fine. I just find it interesting that what is the reason why people love to hate? Yeah.
Because it seems.
Yeah, Jordan. Yeah, Jordan. I think he's redundant. I think he doesn't lead by example. I hate leftist leaders who sit there and proclaim that this is the way society should be, and then when you actually watch them in their own personal lives, they cannot mimic any of the rhetoric that they're talking about, nor do they actually apply the whatever minority rules are to his own personal life. You can look no further than his own daughter, and the complications that exist there that he allows to become into the public fray. I think the fact that he enjoys the notoriety and the group of followers that he does appeal to, the Monica's and the frog fanciers, I think are enough to warrant a cautious glance into how he's really trying to generate any kind of traction.
What was that guy's? I think he died last year. Kevin Samuels, wasn't he kind of in the Jordan Peterson arena?
Yeah, did Kevin Samuels die with a hooker in his bed or something like that?
Smile on his face.
Not a better way to go. You gotta go.
Unless the hooker killed him.
One of the reasons why there is a lot of anger on this app is because of a lack of education and comprehension. And somebody like Victoria or the politically correct room, the rhetoric and the propaganda and the hate speech that you hear from these people is a direct correlation to a lack of education and comprehension.
American, I would say, is actually, are we talking about university education or home life education?
Wisdom. There's an expression, to understand all is to forgive all. Most of these people on these apps who are liberal retards who project their propaganda do not have a solid comprehension of education. There's no solid education in these people's brains. If you believe that giving $1 billion a month to abortion providers to kill American children is a good usage of taxpayer dollars, and you come on here and you talk about women's health and abortion nonstop, that could be just a projection of personal trauma. I'm not saying Victoria has had an abortion. I don't know anything about the Situation Room girl. The point is, I have spent enough time recording retards on this app to know that all of the speakers on this app have never read a book on this app ever. They don't read. They have horrible comprehension, horrible education, and all they have is their political propaganda. It's pathetic.
So, was that the foundation of where they come from, or is that their family line, or is that because they went through the public school system?
It's the now, meaning that it's a compression of their entire lives, coming on this app now and spewing their vitriol, their hate speech, and their lack of education, and really their culture in many ways. So it's comprehensive. It is nurture and nature.
So when I adopt the liberal, I always ask the question, how did you come to that conclusion? And most of the time they don't have a reason why they came to a certain conclusion. I think people miss out on personal responsibility. It's just my observation in life. Brad and I had this conversation a long time ago that people don't want to take care of themselves. People think someone owes them something. And like I tell many people, no one owes anybody anything, but you should owe yourself to be responsible for yourself. growing up at 61, I'm 61, guys, I'll be 62 in December, and they always talk about collective, the group, or they told me I lost my black card or whatever, all this stuff they say labeling. And I always say, first of all, I was never issued a black card. And number two, just because I happen to be a responsible person, I think that's where most people are having the biggest challenge. They don't want to take responsibility for their own behavior.
My black card works all the time. I can go shopping with it anytime I want to. My black card works just fine. I'm sure it does.
Mine does. Brad, my black card does work. I'm talking about ethnicity though, but it's good, Brad.
So Edward, I agree with your comment about folks needing to take the accountability that for whatever reason they don't. But I think you're referring to liberals. Would you say that is exclusively on liberals or the left side, and most of the right, the conservatives, are just taking accountability all day long?
I think it disproportionately is a problem of the left. I'm not here to absolve the entire right-hand side of the spectrum, but I think in the current state it's more of a left problem.
I agree with that statement. I think that, and for me, that's another thing. I was born in America, not by choice, but I do believe in our founding documents as we hold these truths to be self-evident. So this is when I talk to liberals. I live in California, guys, so I talk to a lot of them. And I always say, why should I go to work every day with a company and you benefit from it because you didn't even earn anything? They don't comprehend that we live in a society where you are personally responsible for yourself. Our founding fathers never wanted us to have big government. And right now, bureaucracy have given people some sense of entitlement, which I can't comprehend. I just don't understand it. But it is what it is. And like people even ask me, did you vote for Donald Trump? I said, no, I voted for him. I don't know Donald Trump, never met him. Don't know anybody in this cabinet, never met him. I'm an American. I get to cast a vote. What happens in my house is much more important than what happens in the White House. That's how I live my life, guys. No one's coming to my rescue. I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, not what they call liberals, or even Roger and I. What's the group again? I forgot it again. Libertarian. Everybody wants a label. My only label is I love God and I'm an American. That's my label.
And I agree with you there, and to the point of, yes, California too. I talk to lots of liberals, obviously, and I also, like the Godfather said, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And I'm not saying, say that in jest, I'm not saying conservatives or anyone on the right is necessarily enemy, strong term. But, you got to get outside of our political bubbles and see what is their perspective versus this perspective and such. But what stands out, though, Edward, respectfully, is you're saying it's mostly the liberals that are not taking accountability, that are not taking care of themselves and sucking on Uncle Sam's nipple for welfare. However, ironically, 7 of the top 10 states in this country that rely most heavily on Uncle Sam's handouts are red states.
And I don't disagree with you. I think that's only because of the demographics of those states and the structure. I personally believe that all life starts in your home, meaning that how you're going to go out and recognize the world. Unfortunately, in the last 50 years, a lot of people have been born to single parents,
Matrix breakdown is. I think it was power, money, sex. Do I?
That you got it right. That's my wife's thing. We were
Right
watching.
on.
She said that's what all these politicians want. Both sides of the aisle. They like power. They like money. And they like sex. They're not thinking about any of this.
Exactly. They don't have snake, couldn't possibly care their interest or their interest. But I would even further that and say, like, what happens to the work ethic in this country? Where today you have influencers making, several thousand, several thousand, 100,000 a month or so. Just talking on camera, doing pranks at a drive-through. And so, okay, you can understand that, the demographic is generally, what is it these days? Gen X, Gen Z? Sorry, not Gen X. The really young one, I think, is Gen Z. So I get it. When in Rome, this is all they know. They weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They were born with a silver phone in their mouth. But where I take issue is there's a whole documentary about it. I think it was Ad Teen Influence, something like that, where it was one's mother. This mother was not actually pimping out in the traditional sense, but certainly monetarily for likes and such on video, where his mother started videoing her kids because they're so cute, putting it online. I mean, I think it started when these kids were as young as 7 or 8, something like that. And then she's like, oh my gosh, we got like 500 hits following week. Oh my gosh, we have 5,000 hits. So she saw dollar signs in her eye and a cash cow. She went on further. I mean, there's some kids that have come forward from this documentary that this woman was totally pushing the envelope as these kids were getting a little older. I mean, maybe 12. She would literally stage it and encourage her own child to like kiss a boy on the mouth, and then sure enough, like 10,000 more hits, 100,000 more likes, and of course the money starts rolling in. It even got to the point where some of them came in. Some actually said on camera that this woman would actually get in bed with some of these kids and rub herself on top of them and just tell these kids it's okay. We're just having fun. So it's kind of like, okay, you can't really blame the kid, they don't know better, but when we're in a society where parents are putting their kids on the world stage in these circumstances for money, and she was making money, I mean, like lots of it, I think it's something wrong here, something really wrong.
So, Moose, I wanted to push back on something you said earlier, where you said blue states are bailing out red states fiscally. And I'm going to give you a counter, because I know where this narrative comes from, and I know like the number of people that really truly believe it. But first and foremost, I would say the nation as a whole is in a federal deficit. So there is no state that is bailing out any of the other states. We're completely operating in a massive deficit. So that right there really does put the nail in the coffin for this argument that blue states are bailing out red states. Because if it were true, no state is actually contributing enough to college. Most of these blue states are actually running into financial issues, deficits, lack of controls in spending. And generally, when you look at the federal distribution of funds, this can go for a variety of projects. If you're talking about Medicare or following the FMAP principles, yeah, you will see those more in rural states. But then again, that's rural. The concentration of wealth that exists in particular cities, such as New York, Chicago, LA, Dallas, there's a couple others, those generally will have mixed reviews because they will have enormous wealth, but they'll have massive taxation programs to actually garner that wealth, while the rest of the state is actually dependent on it. And these blue states often receive, based on projects, they get federal priority because of the wealth generation, such as highways and things along those lines, infrastructure bills. They'll actually receive more foundational money or federal money in terms of it, rather than, say, a Wyoming or Rhode Island. Well, Rhode Island won't, because right now they're going to try to reinvest in shipping. building. So they'll receive some more influx of capital from the federal government, or at least will add to the deficit to build chips. So I really hate this point where people try to say the blue states bailout threat, when quite frankly, when you look down on it, maybe you're going to make a case for Medicaid and SNAP, but it's even that is not necessarily true because the federal government upholds projects in mostly blue states, California, New York again, that primarily get a lot of projects in there. And then part of the federal dollars go for a lot of other projects that can't exist in those, such as buying the military bases, training, in some areas that just they need gas, fracking. So like a lot of these other areas that are more rural, they actually contribute a lot because those blue states, unfortunately, would not necessarily be able to operate at all because they just don't allow those practices to actually go on.
Yeah, no, wait, I mean, so wait, I think maybe I misspoke. The stat that I put out was specifically, I think you're talking about, because I just did a quick search too, and I have to use specific language. In the initial search, I said, yeah, it's a mix of blue and red states that get federal aid. What I meant was specifically individual citizens getting SNAP, getting Medicaid, literally just like surviving, get their income relying on the individual's household income relying on government, not necessarily fracking in states getting help from blue or federal government. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that goes further to like the infrastructure projects at hand. So like if you look at some more, and I would go to where I would look at wealth concentration, particularly in cities versus the rural landscape, because that paints a different picture. Blue states get it because, like the sad part is, majority, and Texas and parts of Florida, the majority of the wealth creation or the wealth concentration exists in these four primary states. So when you look at it and you start looking at it on a city, then you start saying, all right, wait a minute, maybe this distribution isn't necessarily fair. So for instance, I would point to hospital and medical infrastructure and the decrease in actual employment in these rural areas, which causes a need for federal assistance because there is no significant development into manufacturing or making another wealth concentration center in these states. So, I mean, it's a bit of a precarious stance. I get why the left often use it, but I don't think it's actually portrayed accurately as how we divvy up federal funds in this country.
Isn't part of the problem, though, that we allow the left to control the narrative about what the role of government ought to be? And so then they frame what the role should be, and then everybody argues about how the government should prioritize those things, and then they fight over spending. If there was a real opposition to the left, like a genuine opposition to the left, it would start with the reframing of what are the rights that the citizens have, and then what is the role of the government that would protect those rights. I think that there's just, to me, when I listen to both parties speak, I hear about people that have expanded they go from negative rights to positive rights. Then they have this I guess misunderstanding of why government was created in the first place, and then they just expand it to do everything in everyone's lives. And until you roll that conversation all the way back and have a conversation about what the role of government is, I think that conservatives are going to get destroyed at every turn because you're allowing the framing to be done on the left, and then you're playing their game. And even if you got your way, you won the battle of who's the least leftist.
Anson, good to see you. I usually just see you in Gary's room. But going to that point, wait. So we have, how is it exactly that we're allowing
the role of government. And again, I know that nobody's ready for that conversation on either side, which is why when I hear leftists argue with people that reject leftist ideas, I say, well, you're not rejecting them staunchly enough. You're not saying that the very idea of having Social Security is a fucking problem. Like, you'll have Republicans that are afraid to talk about it that'll just capitulate and say, oh, we'll share some ideas on how to fix it because they're afraid of what the revolt might be. I would say grab some principled ideas and draft a conversation around here's what getting rid of Social Security would look like long term. I think that if the Republicans don't have the balls to do that, in my opinion, all they are is leftists that are in the slow lane. The Democrats are the leftists that are in the fast lane.
It's true. It's true. They're running the government as if it's a race to the bottom to see who can, implode it faster, and that's the way they spend. 10 billion a day. If we take in 150 billion in tariffs since January of this year, that funds only 15 days of federal government. We're borrowing 2 to 3 trillion a day and spending, or 2 to 3 billion a day and spending 6 to 7 billion a day. It's totally unsustainable, and it's a giant fucking contraption. It's a game. I mean, the way that Trump interacts with Chairman Powell spoke today. I don't know if he lowered rates, but there is a relationship which is rather unnatural between Congress and the Federal Reserve, who is more than willing to do whatever Congress tells them to do. But we have spineless Congress people. We have propagandists like AOC, who backs Mamdani, Sanders, who backs AOC. These people are big spenders. They've never run a pizza shop in their fucking life. They are hypocrites, they are frauds, and they're very dangerous to our overall way of living, our culture, and our future as American people. They are domestic terrorists, in my opinion. They are dangerous to our way of life because they're delusional, sick borrowers and spenders. You don't live your life like that, but Congress wants you to live. They want to live that life for you. It's sick. They are addicted to borrowing and spending, and it never seems to end. So people have to speak up and say, stop borrowing, stop spending. This is not sustainable, and you're wasting it. You're wasting our precious reserves.
So I think what Roger said earlier, I don't think we have courage anymore, guys, in our elected officials. I don't think there's courage at all. I'm going to go back to the immense power of sex. These people have gotten to the blender of using other people's money. They want to spend other people's money. First is allowing the independent states, like what Brad said earlier. No states think we are the states. We are 50 independent states. We have 50 independent governments. Unfortunately, they're not even balancing their budget. And because we've gotten away from everything should be local, close to where the people live. Everything should be ran by the cities, by the states themselves, not by the federal government. And right now, like Roger said, I'll say it again, this social living, this social security, this social experiment isn't working. This isn't working. So Roger, if I took your stance, right, and I'm running, and I believe the only person that can right now in today's environment, if we chose to, I mean, maybe Trump could add Social Security, but I mean, if I ran, how bad do you think I lose in an election? With all seriousness, how bad do you think I lose? I can
to go broke. 2035, the trust fund is broken, completely emptied, and you'll only be able to fund 71% of the liabilities. We need to be able to speak honestly about that and educate people. The average American that is in support of having Social Security is because they think they're going to get it. If you tell them that we can only fund 71% of the liabilities, oh, and by the way, the Supreme Court has already ruled that this is not a promissory note. There is no guarantee of Social Security. Go look at what the Supreme Court has to say about this. I think what we have to do is we need to have that conversation that you're not guaranteed it. And the politicians have already spent that money. The trust fund will be broken 2035, and the only ways that they're going to have to fix it is to raise Social Security tax, which is right now at $625. They can raise the limit on the income of what they tax. So essentially, both of those are raising taxes. Both of those are going to be unpopular. You can raise the age at which you collect. They continue to do that, but right now the standard age is 70. You can take it early, it's 67. You can wait longer and get even more money, but most people don't have that luxury. And then the other thing is you can reduce the benefit that people collect. That's not something that's exciting. But people need to understand, especially the people that are beyond 2035, for somebody that's on Social Security now, and let's say they've got 5 years left to live, that's a problem that they kick down the road. And I think that's the thing we need to be honest with, is that the politicians continue to kick this thing down the road, and eventually the people that are going to get saddled with it are the people that have been lied to and led to believe that this is a promise and that there's a guarantee, or that somehow they have recourse if they didn't get paid for it. The truth is, Social Security has always been a Ponzi scheme. And until somebody says that out loud and explains it, whiteboards it, and lets people understand that this is not a political position, this is just transparency. Until we get that kind of real talk, we're all fucked. And we know that the lefties like this, they like to expand it. They don't have the money to pay for it, but they love to expand it. And you have not a Republican in sight that's got the balls to talk about it, save for maybe Thomas Massey. But he's only going to do that when he's talking to his constituents that like his brand. There's a lot of gutless people that run in Congress, and you got to start the conversation. Because I'll tell you what, eventually the conversation's going to come up, and it's too fucking late after the trust fund is empty.
Can I get a word in edgewise now?
You can get it in edgewise. I hope you don't mind me having that right of response to Brad that was asking me the question. But go ahead, Anson, jump in.
You have every right to, and it's your room. You're the moderator, so you have every right. It's effective or not, we can talk about it, but you have every right to do that, and I don't want to intrude. But the answer to the question, actually, the answer to the question in the room, can we save the left, is no. And Brad, for you to run for office, knowing you as I at least partially know you and your views from interacting on Clubhouse over the last several years, unless you pick your local area very carefully, you don't stand a child's chance in hell of being elected to office. Neither do I. At one point, about 20 years ago, somebody asked me to run for the city council in my local town that I still live in. And I said, not only no, but hell no, because I wouldn't sit still for all the bullshit that I would hear being presented before the council. But the reason we cannot, I just dropped in, and I was kind of looking around before the critical thinking room forum this today. By the way, I'm getting more and more disgusted with that room, but that's a whole different topic. But I just dropped into a room. There are only 4 people, and my good friend Steve, and those of you that responsibility. You're never going to defeat the government. Leftists, they're the ones that look to government to supplant personal responsibility. And that's the downfall of empires.
Well, what business does Mamdani have in opening up low-income housing? I mean, this is just wealth redistribution through taxation. In Chicago, they spent $50 million on a low-income housing project with perpetual tenants and perpetual tax payments to the developers or the lessors. So we are living in an unnatural economy. 40% of our overall economy is through borrowing and spending. We are on a totally unsustainable path, and the fact that how we have gotten here, if we accept the personal responsibility of it, we have no choice but to speak out about the radical borrowing and spending and how it doesn't seem like it's ever going to stop. It's just linear.
Well, you have that going on right now, where you have Newsom permitting low-income housing, but hasn't passed any permits for any of the people in the wildfires. So those people are sitting there waiting. It did come out. Someone tried to challenge me yesterday. I had to acquiesce to their fact-check news. But then it was released today that yes, Gavin Newsom is partaking through an NGO, through a charity event, or whatever it is that his wife has set up. What is it? Fire charity, some stupid shit. That he is taking that money and not even distributing down to the people in need. There's a prominent individual who's like going into the sources and doing all the fact checking, and he's stating nobody's received a penny that he is aware of that he can find. So if that redistribution that you're speaking of, Edmund, is it's going on right now, and it really exemplified based on this one that I can't figure out why the left won't fucking at least acknowledge it and then do something to at least stop their own side. Instead, they just want to go Newsom for president.
Acknowledge what exactly? Sorry, hop in, Mike.
Oh, that Newsom is blocking permits of people to rebuild their homes, and that he was basically taking from charity money, or his wife was. I'm sorry, it wasn't him directly, but his wife has been in terms of the California wildfires.
I mean, state governors do some pretty stupid shit. I mean, Floridians all started chanting DeSantis for president, even though we got hit with a fucking hurricane and we had no money because he spent all of it sending quote-unquote legal immigrants over to sanctuary cities to prove a political point when we were literally in the midst of an impending hurricane, right? And we got fucking shit on by it, especially the coast. They got absolutely fucking mobbed by that shit. But I would say, state governors 24/7, as stupid as the people may be in the state, sometimes to keep putting them in, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's on both sides of the aisle that we've always seen that, yeah, even if they do some stupid shit, being there once kind of almost guarantees you a second going unless you really, really fuck up.
Brad, I wanted to also include for the Pacific Palisades, that area, the residents have complained that they are not able to get the permits to start building. Just a couple, I think there was maybe less than 10 permits. So what has happened since that time? The California State Senate has passed that they can purchase that land for low-income housing. So it makes you wonder, is that the reason why you're stalling? Because then you're gonna force these people into stall them out as long as possible, make them so uncomfortable that you are forced their hand to sell their land. It's problematic. And one last thing, Brad, when you're talking about Newsom's wife charity, it's called Cal Volunteers. And the problem with this, and I found out, unfortunately, the terrible way, I had to file a cease and desist to a charity that was utilizing my late husband's name, picture, likeness to raise funds, then not distribute or be accountable for said funds to be in fact during our profit and loss. So when I did that, I found out that every state within the state AG office has a department that is exclusively, that's supposed to work through all the investigations from charities. But it takes someone to sit there and say, this is what I have, this is what you why people are allowed to take that money in, process it, and they're like, oh, okay, we gotta close it down, but where did that money go?
It goes into administrative expenses, salaries, very little development. It's an epidemic of nonprofit charlatans and fraud. After COVID-19, Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan opened up a $100 million anti-inflammation research facility here in Chicago. And guess who helped spread all the lies of COVID-19 vaccines? Mark Zuckerberg. So maybe that's their payback to society, is to open up nonprofits to figure out how we can save ourselves from the injections and the inflammation and the clot shot. That's how billionaires seem to use tax loopholes to defer income tax and put it into nonprofits that they control and can enjoy and utilize. But, you know, we put away Al Capone because of tax evasion. Are the liberals calling for any billionaires to be imprisoned for tax evasion on this app? Have you ever heard one liberal on this app say we should put Zuckerberg or Bill Gates in jail for tax evasion? No, you've never heard it. And if you claim that they're involved in a COVID-19 vaccine conspiracy theory, they call you crazy.
Well, that was kind of crazy.
Really? You think it's crazy to inject the entire population with one patented formula? No dynamic medicine. Everybody gets the same shot, otherwise the pandemic doesn't end? That sounds crazy to you?
No, it doesn't sound that crazy.
What's crazy is leftist liberals who want to tax you to death through your property tax, through your income tax. Danelle, I mean, what do you think we should do? How should we solve the financial crisis that's brewing in America today?
I think we're just screwed, regardless. I think we've reached a point of countries where the institutions become locked up. I think people don't really believe it anymore. I think we're just screwed. I don't think there is a magic wand to fix it. Sorry.
Well, apparently you don't believe in education. Because, if you know you're getting fucked over and you just keep voting for the same cocksuckering asshole who keeps fucking you over year after year, maybe it's an awareness problem. And through education, you can enhance your awareness.
Yeah, that's gonna take it. There's this great book on scientific revolution about how science evolved over time and new ideas. They've extrapolated this idea to kind of everything, politics, sociology, and stuff, by kids. And you just have to wait for a lot of people to die for that to happen. You have to have new ideas get popular. And it's just it would take a while. Like, you're not just gonna, what is this, like the Wizard of Oz? You're gonna put a piece of paper and, change your mind about everything. Like, it's unfixable, man. You're cooked. Get over it.
Hello, KK. Hello. Hey, I'm gonna listen to that. I don't know how to pronounce his name. So how do you think we can save the left? Do you think we can save the right? Do you think we can save the right?
He just said it's cooked, it's over, it's fucked. Apparently this guy doesn't know how to fix anything. He doesn't clean anything. His house probably looks like shit. Apparently he just lets things just fall apart and not actually replace or repair anything. That's Danelle's perspective on America. It's un-American, it's pathetic, it's weak, and it's not based on wisdom. Danelle, I'm sorry, but you've lost, you've gotten an F- if this was a report card.
So now, would you like to answer the question?
I mean, nothing is possible and nothing is impossible, but I'm just saying, like, in this culture, the culture that we live in right now, where, politics has become sort of this virtue signal culture war, how are you going to get the majority to implement these ideas? Like, you're not going to be able to do that. That's why it's
can leave the sex part out. The borrowing and the spending again is the problem. Let me repeat that for people who don't seem to understand the financial crisis. It's called borrowing and spending and giving it away to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the NDAA. That's $5 trillion a year, and we're borrowing, and in $2 billion a day, or 2 to 3 trillion on top of what we collect in tax revenue. So again, for people that don't understand the crisis, it's called borrowing and spending. It has to stop.
But what does Social Security and Medicare have to do with the debt?
It's called a program that doesn't work. It's not sustainable.
No, but he's making the assumption that this program isn't working because it's causing borrowing and spending of assets. How does Medicare and Social Security contribute to the debt?
It's an expenditure, stupid. And when there's $100 billion in fraud in Medicare, Medicaid every year, and they don't even cut a budget for the fraud or wipe the fraud the fuck out, even in IRS income tax returns, that's like a $60 billion a year identity theft scam fraud. We have so much fraud in the system that if we don't shut it down, reanalyze it, reconfigure it, we just keep kicking the can down the road, borrowing from the Federal Reserve and international lenders. We are driving ourselves into a debt spiral. And if the people of this country keep voting for Congress people that keep borrowing from the Federal Reserve and spending like drunken sailors, you can kiss your American dream the fuck goodbye, and it's all over.
So how much money does the U.S. annually per year borrow to fund Social Security and Medicare?
It's an aggregate. We are spending $5 trillion in. Let me put it in ChatGPT for you, Danelle.
Hold on. I'll give you the most important piece of this is that the top two expenditures in the line item are, the line items go like this: Social Security, Medicare, and then interest on the debt. And the interest on the debt is because of the Social Security and the Medicare spending. So the top three line items are directly related to Social Security and Medicare. We have 2/3 of the budget that are locked up in mandatory spending for these programs that
It's a lack of awareness, a lack of education, it's corruption. I mean, in Illinois, they just put the Speaker of the House in jail for 3.5 years because he's doing price fixing with ComEd, the utility. They put executives from the utility in prison. They've put political fixers in prison. But the utility bills just keep going up. We have to have real forensic accounting, real courageous leadership, and people who aren't going to deflect and always go back to climate change or how there's white supremacy and racism that's inherent in the system. The people that do that, you have to start paying attention to, and you have to call them out every time they do it because they are corrupt and a part of the borrowing and spending problem.
Right, and it's not just race, and it's not just gender. They use those as tactics to get people to stop talking at all. They feel like if they put a label on you, then somehow that's going to shut you up, and then it stalls all your progress. The other thing that we should absolutely think about is the lack of conversation that we have in this country about what's happened in Europe when they've opened their borders to Islam. We should talk about the
that's an argument against theocracy. In general, theocracy is in general bad. And I would say, yeah, Iran, Islamic Republic, or wherever the fuck, not good.
And Roger, or Mojo, Mojo Rising, Mojo Roger Rising, there you go. I know you like this Islamist, the 9-year-old having sex. You can just do it.
Actually.
No, I'm saying, let me finish. You like that argument to counterpoint the left having the audacity of accusing a president of a free world potentially, allegedly, being involved in such horrific acts. So I'll be the first to say, man, I don't care what culture, what religion, people can hide behind or whatever, it's absolutely grotesque. That's one of the
years old. The point of why that's not relevant is that if you were to go conduct man-on-the-street interviews in the state of Delaware and ask the people in Delaware, what do you think of age of consent being 7? They would all say, that's absurd, that's abhorrent. If you ask that same question of Muslims in 2025, and we've done that on these stages, they will say, she was old enough. Their words, not mine.
What did you say this? Okay, and that's horrific, agreed. But what about, again, going back to our fearless leader, in the White House, who is actually trying to ban, I'll be happy to find the article, it's not that hard to find. He's trying to ban, I believe, a federal law. So I think, as most of us know, right, with therapy, there is therapy and priests. Two toughest people to get up in court on a witness stand to talk about their people that come to them in confidentiality. My understanding in both those scenarios, however, is that what reigns supreme over the confidentiality agreement is if they think that their person or persons is at risk of harming themselves, or more apropos, harming someone else, that completely absolves that confidentiality agreement. President Donald Trump is attempting to ban a federal law that allows priests, because you're talking about the Islam, well, as equally as bad is modern day Catholics. Many priests, I can't think of one who's ever been held accountable and sitting behind bars for child molestation of altar boys and such, and Trump is trying to now ban the ability, the federal law that allows for priests to speak to law enforcement if a child has come to them in confidentiality saying that they have been abused either by another priest or by any adult on this planet. Why would the president try to do that?
Put it in the chat, Moose. I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah,
You don't believe, I don't blame you, American. I'll put in multiple links. Put
the link in the chat so people can follow along. But I'll speak to this idea that, like, I'm the wrong person to ask to defend Donald Trump. I didn't vote for him in any of the 3 elections that he ran. I don't have a lot of pleasant things to say about him. I do like the fact that he ordered those strikes on those terror sympathizers, the ones that sponsor terror around the world. I thought I thought hitting the nuclear sites was a good idea. The only thing that I question about that is the wisdom of only doing it once. I think that we should set our clock and probably do that every 3 days just to make sure that that program never gets off the ground. I'm not going to sit here and defend Trump on any of this stuff. Like my condemnation for this type of behavior and policies that would condone this stuff, this can apply to anybody. I'm not in a camp. I'm not part of a God club that says that I want to protect this group or that group. I think that God exists, and I think that that's evident. I think anybody that's paying attention can recognize that. What I don't think is that we necessarily need to join a God club and make truth claims about the characteristics of God. If you want to do that, you're totally, that's on you. I respect people like Edward. I consider Edward a friend. I don't think that he's wrong for owning the beliefs that he has. I personally find it more useful, though, to stand outside of that God club and to say, okay, if we're going to have an organized society, what are the rules going to be? And I like John Stuart Mill's take on we should be free to do what we want to do, provided that we don't harm anyone. I would set age of consent laws at 25. I think the fact that people want to have sex with children is fucking abhorrent. And whether or not they're Catholic or a fucking Muslim or any other religion or an atheist, by the way, we shouldn't let atheists off the hook. Atheists have killed more people than anybody. If we look at Stalin, if we look at Pol Pot, if we look at Mao, we can understand that the godless people, surprise, surprise, are the most deadly on the planet. So I have smoked for all of them, Moose. So yes, if Donald Trump is is holding the door open for pedophiles.
We'll see if he's back. But Moose,
What Moose? Let me go ahead, Mayor.
I was gonna say, Moose, don't you?
There's fake news. I mean, New York Times, MSNBC, Courthouse News.
Yeah, all horrifically fake news. Rolling Stones puts out fake news all day. MSNBC puts out fake news all day. It's all anti-Trump bullshit, and you're just peddling it. All you're doing is spewing propaganda and lies. It's all stupid. I salute you for posting the links. Congratulations.
Right on, man.
Wait, can I interject on this? Because, like, if you read even the first link, and then I just went through and looked up a couple of things, because I was actually shocked at this for a moment. And this actually stems from a Washington State law that they imposed on.
That is correct. I stand corrected on them. It wasn't a federal, it was Washington State. That is 100% true, correct.
Yes, and so this repeal, the federal judge, oddly enough, in that district, which is more left-leaning, agreed with the plaintiffs that brought forth this case, which happens to be like whatever Sky Daddy religion it was. They agreed with it that it is a bridge into determining like how people would practice their beliefs. Like for instance, a priest can hear a confession from a murder. That doesn't mean they have to report said murder. That's held within the confines of that. So putting this kind of stamp on a religious order for a priest to hear a confession, hear this, and then say, I have to report this, or use their own framework or their own determination to determine what is child abuse and what isn't, which child neglect, without any formal training, this would lead to, I would say, more problematic, and it would probably bring up more further constraints on priests in terms of following their faith. I'm not sure I oppose 100% of your viewpoint, Moose, but I actually can sit down and say, all right, I see where they're coming from with this. I can see where they were looking at towards the future, and when states start to impose laws regulating people's religious beliefs and doctrines.
So, Moose, I just want to make sure before you go on that this legislation does not come from a president. Okay, the president doesn't make law. This actually starts.
I understand that, Edward. I didn't say he made the law. I said he was backing the church to block this law. No, you're right. Of course, the president is not. That's Congress, correct?
Yeah, but now the law that already is on the books, like what Brad was talking about, there is a protection for those who have either their therapist or even their doctor or their priest, whatever. There's protected law already. So I don't think that, based on what you said, I just want to make sure I'm understanding that the president of the United States does not normally sit down and look at all these things. He has some cabinet of people that's bringing him things. I don't think he's read up on this one based on what you said. I think a lot of times we get caught up in things and we make it as if though the individual, and I want to make sure everybody knows this, the president of the United States is not our leader. He's the leader of the free world. Each individual person their own leader, hopefully. I think that we got to get back to personal responsibility. That's why I see it.
I gotcha. I mean, again, it's just any attempt, and like I said, I acknowledge that this was not federal, although I guess I thought there was a federal judge was involved. But yeah,
Well, Moose, are you asking yourself why would Trump want to do this?
Exactly. Like I don't have an answer.
It's called anti-Trump propaganda.
Duh. Why would the president put his name on this at all?
Look at the news source and the journalists. Are you this daft and that stupid to know that all communication is spam? It's just fake news, stupid. It's clickbait. Just like all clown house room titles are clickbait generally.
Okay, cool. So then what about all these stories around the world? Forget Trump. That has nothing to do with Trump, but actually, are all the stories around the world, like, do you think...
All the stories around the world?
Stand by. Do you think it's all fake news that priest that molested
Welcome to the publishing industry. If you think sending Grant Cardone $99.95 to go to Grant Cardone University is gonna make you money and not cost you money, you're part of the sucker group. And guess what, Moose? This is your great awakening and enlightening. MSNBC is fake news. CNN is fake news. Your Rolling Stones puts out fake news. It's called the publishing industry, stupid. It's called the publishing industry, stupid. Wake up before you get suckered into more scams and spams, and then come here and spread more fake news and more propaganda.
Hold on.
Shut up, American.
Hold on. American, listen. Moose has ideas that I disagree with, just like I have ideas that he disagrees with. But the one thing I can vouch for Moose is that he doesn't argue in bad faith. He comes to these rooms to just, sometimes to just challenge the conviction that some of us have, and to speak what's on his mind. I think we need to create that place. I think there's a way to rebuttal the things that you disagree with without being inflammatory. There are definitely people on this app that we should shit down the neck of. I don't think Moose is one of them.
Well, that's fine, but I'm just saying the links that he put in the chat, to me, they're fake news. Now, if you want to deflect about pedophiles and Trump and the Catholic Church from the fact that we are borrowing and spending ourselves into a debt spiral oblivion, let's go back to that important topic instead of the bullshit fake news that you can't seem to let go and put in the chat. So thank you very little, Dr. Moose.
Fake news and it's in Google, You can call everything fake, but there is a background to that story.
Sorry, Dr. David, but can we save the leftists? Let's get back to the room title then, David, because I know you're a confirmed leftist. Can we save you?
Now, you know all about me.
Wait a minute, hold on. Like, if you're not going to take the concerns of somebody else, and then you're going to ask for control of economic principles or the foundation of the country, if you can't actually acknowledge that this is a concern that may be on his radar, and he may want clarity, and like you just conceded that he thought it was a federal, and it turns out it was actually a state law, and he agreed to that, and you don't take your time to actually talk with him and actually have that conversation to go through the nuance and say whether you agree or disagree with this, you'll never win on an economic front. It cannot only be on economics. We've tried that for years in conservatives. Guess what? Conservatives lost. Like, I'm going to tell you, I've lost. I'm probably the last of a dying breed. I'm done. It is a new Republican. It is a new. There's no more liberals left. There's no more libertarians. We're all dead. We're done. And you're not going to win the economic front by just screaming economic. You won't win. Just as your main source. You have to address everything else.
And Brad, I think that what you just said, that's why we're collapsing. I think Roger said 2030, guys, because we can't support all the programs. We can't support, and I'm going to use these terms so you guys understand. Black Lives Matter, okay, and I'm using that as an illustration so you guys understand. SNAP, WIC, all these things that's taking place in the United States. Social Security, the Great New Deal. We've gotten so far away from personal responsibility in America that now we think there's some institution or some group of people that's going to save the individual. It doesn't work. And it's very unfortunate because now we're in a country where people actually think that someone's actually coming to their rescue. And it's pretty sad.
I think America does need a political savior. They need someone to actually help them out and with their economic needs. And I do think that is the MAGA populist movement. I think that I disagree with you, Ed, a little bit that that we have to do away with like some of that stuff. Some of that stuff I agree with. Some of that stuff I disagree with. I think protecting Social Security, protecting Medicare, Medicaid, all these things. These are political wins because people want big government. People want government intervention if it benefits their personal lives. And I think that's actually a bipartisan view. I think that's a winning message. I think both political parties should double down on that. I say moving away from that because that's when Republicans become losers. When they actually focus on fiscal conservatism, focus more on the debt than helping individual people's lives, the working class, these people who are struggling paycheck to paycheck. You need the government to intervene to help these people out. There's personal responsibility.
Wait, hold on. Why do you need the government to do See, you made this statement that you need the government to do this. What you've done is you've just accepted leftist rhetoric and you framed it. You've got your own heroes that you want to see elected, but you've accepted their framing that the government must do that. And my question for you, Astro, is why have you accepted the leftist framing of what the government's role is?
I wouldn't say this is a leftist framing. I would say, it's basically interventionism versus non-interventionism. It's not exclusively left or right. You had Democrats, like in the Bill Clinton era, who actually were less for government intervention in the economy and certain issues, okay? And you have right-wingers like Josh Hawley and J.D. Vance who are for government intervention in the economy and certain issues, okay? And they're not leftists. They're right-wingers.
No. They LARP as right-wingers, but they're not. The new Republican Party is not capitalist. The new Republican Party, they do want to intervene in the economy, which by definition makes them non-capitalist. And the fact is that you guys have accepted this. You guys have accepted this horse shit. You guys have accepted this idea that Donald Trump, because you like him better than you like the other team, that his bad ideas are okay. That tariffs, putting a tax on fucking consumers is okay. You accept all of this shit that are bad ideas that I would expect to come from lefties, but because you have like a foul-mouthed fucking guy like Trump, you think that's more edgy and it's more cool. I just want to understand, where the fuck did your principles go?
Well, I would say this, I think you're right. The Republican Party is moving away from free market capitalism. I welcome it. I think it's a great thing. It doesn't mean they're a socialist at all or a leftist. I won't say that. But I do think the shift to economic populism, that's what I would call it, is good for the American people. But I would disagree with Trump on certain things. I'm not going to say I agree with him on every single thing. But I do think, from the 2008 recession, from Occupy Wall Street, from all these elites who keep promising all these different things, and they actually never deliver for the American people at all.
But Astro, you agree that borrowing and spending is the solution. You just admitted it. You think moving away from capitalism and moving to socialism, communism, borrowing and spending and wealth redistribution is the way that the Republicans should go? That's the way you think, Astro? Mr. MAGA?
Well, I would say this. I'm not a socialist. I'm for economic intervention. Just because you're for economic intervention doesn't mean you're a socialist. There's alternatives to capitalism and alternatives
Economic
to
intervention is another term for borrowing and spending.
Well, actually, I have a question. You said there's an alternative to something. I 1% against big government in any form, including Donald Trump. Okay? All of them. I leave the responsibility back to the local level, to the state, and to the individual. That's why our Constitution, our Bill of Rights and Declaration, these are our founding documents. We hold these to be self-evident. We are way too big on intervention. Look around, it's not working. We got way too many Americans right now who can't even think for themselves. Because you know why? They're looking to government. When do the individual in America, Astro, decide that this is their America, not someone who's in some central area making a decision on behalf of their work? I just help you with that.
Well, I would say that if you actually have decreased federal government power by power to states to do economic regulation and stuff like that too, I'm before that as well. That's still big government policy, just more on the local level. I think that's fine. But for the individual as a
So
collective.
you'd rather have the local government take over the business spectrum and have the government manage it all? Astro, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, hold on, Astro. Here's the fucking issue. Here's the issue. Who fucking needs fucking leftists if we've got righties like you? This is crazy. You're not a capitalist, right? And you think that having alternatives to capitalism is a good idea. You've ignored the fact that capitalism has a track record of pulling more people out of poverty than any other economic
say, hey, the USSR became a global superpower under their economic system. I'm not going to sit here and say communism is a good thing, socialism is a good thing, just because there's small little benefits here and there for their economic system, okay? And I would say this, that like, I do have principles.
Economic solution, they were a mafia group that took over by murder and mayhem. They were terrorists.
Economic nationalism is key. You don't actually give you don't give all your cultural values for the GDP for higher GDP. You don't actually decrease your sovereignty to give it to the mega corporation who doesn't care about your values, who doesn't care about your culture, who actually will sell you on a dime just to actually make a quick buck. That's what capitalism in the United States does all right. That's one reason why I like Ron DeSantis going after Disney, because these mega corporations that go against conservative values need to be crushed by the state. It's just the truth.
Well, hold on. First of all, you don't possess conservative values. Let's be fucking clear on that. Secondly, this idea that fucking economic nationalism, if economic nationalism is your idea, then you're not fiscally conservative, period, point blank. Because you're not going to be able to keep, if you want to put regulations, if you want to put your hand on the scale of the market, you know what large corporations are going to do? They're going to give you the fucking finger and they're going to go elsewhere. This is why people that don't understand economics like yourself should shut the fuck up in these conversations. You should be doing more reading and more listening. The fact is, the only reason anybody ever comes up with these economic nationalism ideas is because in their fucking heart of hearts, they're just fucking racist. Would you really think this is what the fuck at the heart of MAGA is? The heart of MAGA is that we want the country to be white again. And we don't give a shit if it's economically successful. You can give me the thumbs down all you want. I'm telling you exactly the way that this stuff plays out. You guys are prioritizing this idea of what you think the country should look like over what would be effective in terms of governance. This is why you have these xenophobic views about immigration. Now, I would agree with Trump about illegal immigrants. You dumb motherfuckers don't want immigration of any fucking kind. I guarantee you that if we were to continue down this conversation, we're going to get to some Pat Buchanan, David Duke horse shit where you can laugh all you want. You probably like those guys. Why don't we pause right there? Astro, tell me your thoughts on David Duke and Pat Buchanan.
I disagree with David Duke. Pat Buchanan has some good ideas. I disagree with him on a lot of things too, but I think he's better than David Duke.
I bet you couldn't tell the difference between their policy. Here's at the end of the day, look, if you're not a fucking capitalist, then you're not a fucking conservative. Because here's anything. Well, no, it's true. It's true. It's true. And by the way, if you're gonna be fucking anti-capitalist, why not at least fucking go hang your fucking your coat with the fucking lefties? And like this thing that you're doing, that I honestly am starting to believe that the left's new tactic is to infiltrate the Republican Party, behave like leftists, and tell you that white capitalism is a bad fucking thing. This is fucking crazy. And I hope that the Republicans that are in this room that are free market capitalists can hear this horse shit and understand what this fucking guy is saying. This guy is not a conservative. He probably doesn't even follow politics. I guarantee he's never read anything when it comes to economics. He's probably never heard of Ludwig von Mises. He's probably never heard of Friedrich Hayek. He probably has never understood what the Chicago School was all about. I won't get into Adam Smith because I know that's above your reading comprehension level. And if I said School of Salamanca, you would think it's a character from Breaking Bad. So I won't get into any of those things with you because you're a fucking idiot.
Astro, I'm gonna tell you right here. I had this one more prominent voices in the conservative spaces on the set for 5 fucking years. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around somebody who literally has espoused Moose, I apologize for your ears. This is in no way any kind of offense, but literally has been a what Moose's side of the arguments on the political spectrum for 5 fucking years. Like I have had arguments with Moose over these very principles that you're now espousing, and you're saying that you're coming from a conservative class. I wouldn't pick that up from you myself. I won't. And Roger and I go toe to toe, and
fiscal conservative. But guess what? The Republican Party is not a fiscally conservative party either. I mean, it's a big.
I've been saying that for fucking years. That's not a brag. Fucking retard.
Let me respond to you, Mojo. It is a big tent party. It's not the Libertarian Party. If you want pure libertarian economic theory, there is party. It's called the Libertarian Party. Go there, get 2% of the vote, and just and vote for them all the time. Okay. But here's the thing: the Republican Party is big tent. There's different, groups of people with different ideologies within it.
For your dumbass.
Well, that's how we won.
Stop there. You can say it's a big tent party. I'll acquiesce. Yeah, Trump has allowed literally everybody in. I would say though, you need to refrain from saying you're conservative because that principle does not apply at all. Not even close. Not even on. You may have one issue that crosses over so far. Maybe. I don't think you've actually stated an issue that conservatives would follow or believe. But I don't know. We haven't finished yet. Roger's going to tear you up a bit, but if everything's good enough, I would say stay in it. But he's going to tear you up.
Astro, do you even know what's in your PTR? No more endless wars. Do you realize your economic policy is what guarantees endless wars? You low IQ nitwit.
I would say now it's ultimately the for-profit motive of actually selling all these weapons to all these different countries. That does actually ensure.
Oh, now we found it. Economic nationalism because you hate the Jews. Go ahead.
Well, I do think we should reorient our alliance with Israel. I do, but I won't say I hate the Jews.
There you go. That didn't take long.
No,
This is how I knew that he was down with David Duke.
Wait, I want to entertain this a bit. Like, what do you mean revaluing our alliance with this?
They're not good partners. I mean, they've had the international ire of every single country known to man. They've actually gotten our bases in the Middle East bombed because they keep doing hostile aggression against Iran. I mean, they're not good allies.
Wait a minute. You're going to shut the fuck up. How about that? No, you're going to shut the fuck up. No, you can't. Respectfully, no, you can't. Listen, you said it all right now. You said that their aggression against Iran, they're being attacked on multiple fronts from terrorist groups. And your response is that we should realign our foreign policy because that Israel is the problem. This is how we know how problematic you are. So you want economic nationalism, but you also would be more sympathetic to the IRGC, which is a country of religious fundamentalists that pray to a prophet that molests little girls. This is your politics. And I'll tell you, that has nothing to do with any Burkean fucking conservatism. What branch of conservatism do you come from? I want to hear the tree that you've come from. I would bet I could predict it, and I would bet that actually, I wish we were in person. I would write down the fucking answer. I would fold it up in a piece of paper. I would seal it in an envelope. I would ask you the question, and then I would say to one of the pretty ladies, please open the envelope and unfold the piece of paper. I guarantee you I know where your dumbass ideas come from. And I'll tell you right now, it's not conservatism. You're just a fucking bigot. But go ahead, you can speak now.
Well, Mojo, have a you guess first, and I'll take it. I'm just curious if you guess right.
That's not how predictions work. Go ahead.
Just guess. I'll tell you if it's correct or not.
I think that you're probably a graver. I would say that Nick Fuentes is probably somebody that you're very fond of. Am I close?
Close but no cigar. I would say that I'm closest to the Christian nationalist movement.
Got it. The Christian nationalist movement. I don't know if there's fucking awards for accuracy here to be able to spot the fucking foolishness from a mile away, but my track record here is fucking impeccable. I smelled you coming. I
So you mean going into a death spiral? Going into a death spiral reflects Christian values?
Well, I would say this, simping for Disney, for Amazon, for Walmart that exploit these people that promote LGBTQ ideology, that promote abortion, that promote these things. I'm sorry, I'm not going to actually simp for these mega corporations.
To Mojo's point, sorry, go ahead.
But I will go back. Let me go back to what you said, Mason. My personal opinion. It's all about ideology. It's not about ethnicity. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think. I'm not like these race realists, these racists, these white nationalists, or white supremacists like the Roy person. That's where I would disagree with them on. They lose too much on race.
Argue that those people that you just said you're not a part of, they make up a significant portion of said population of this Christian national movement, or at least in the guise and facade of calling themselves that. No.
I would say that they're a separate movement altogether. I think the Roypers are. I think a lot of times they focus more on race than they do religion. Religion's more of an afterthought. It's more about saving the white race and stuff. And most of the Christian nationalists I've seen, they're not really ethnic centric. Maybe they're actually stricter on immigration policy, but that doesn't make you like a racist or anything.
But you got a lot of brothers. You got a lot of brothers at the cookout at these meetings. Or would you say that most of the meetings that you went to are white mostly?
I would say the closest thing to me is Christian. I don't even like the term Christian nationalist, but it's the closest thing to my political group. But there's people who agree with me who are ethnic minorities. I know one guy. He's Jewish. He's Hispanic. He's married to a black woman. He raised
Again, but my question though is, would you say predominantly it consists of white people identifying as white Caucasian?
Americans? Oh my God, Americans talking to Americans. Can we stop with the racial identity politics for 10 seconds?
No, it was Mojo's point earlier about the white supremacy and the MAGA movements. I was just trying to, explore that further.
Yeah, and like back in when
He's got a lot. He's got a lot of especially if you say that you're Christian nationalist, which is very kind of very crazy, because Jesus was actually a true daughter. You know that or not? That's what you actually invested in free. And I also like to find out what carry your economic portfolio, or do you have an economic portfolio? I just want to know.
Well, I think a good historical Christian who did was G.K. Chesterton. He believed in interventionist economic theory, and he believed in helping the working class, the average man.
He believed in borrowing and spending in fiat currency? G.K. Chesterton? Wow. Where in G.K. Chesterton did you read that?
Hold on, guys. I just want to translate this to people that are listening. When he says economic interventionist, what he meant to say was a fascist. Go ahead.
No, I wouldn't say that G.K. Chesterton was a fascist. But I would say
also like literally Mussolini. Thank you, Brad. I didn't know that.
and also
Hold on. No, hold on. I'm going to give you a chance to respond, believe me. And I needed to take a few deep breaths while I was on mute, calm myself down. searching to do.
And I would disagree with that, like a characterization. I think Trump actually. Okay, let me just take this one thing. You can go back.
Sure. Go ahead.
What I would say is that Trump is proof that modern economists are wrong. They're cringe. These free market Wall Street Journal people, they don't know what they're talking about. Tariffs, intervention in the economy is good and can bring about growth. And if I'm authoritarian for actually wanting intervention in the economy, then you have to say Trump is too. Go for it.
Yes. Well, no, hold on. Yes, Trump is an authoritarian. And you know who was an authoritarian before him? Biden. And you know who was an authoritarian before him? Trump. And you know who was an authoritarian before him? I could keep going. You have to go back to fucking Calvin Coolidge to find a U.S. president that wasn't an authoritarian. But Astro, I get that you see in Trump, you see this hope that this guy that's threatened by foreigners, this is your old nationalistic thing, threatened by people that don't think just like you. And so then you try to wrap it up in some fucking wacky idea that you understand economics. And what's crazy to me is, and I'm glad you're doing this. I'm glad everybody can see this, because when I say it, they say, oh, we just don't like Trump. Here's a guy that likes Trump, right? He likes Trump, and he openly acknowledges that he's not a capitalist, and he openly acknowledges that he wants more control over the economy, which basically makes him an economic fascist. And so what I hope you guys are hearing here is that what Astro sees is an ally in Trump that is anti-capitalist and has fascistic fucking viewpoints when it comes to taking over the economy.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around where his religious ideology would warrant intervention in the economic sectors, such as shutting down major employers such as Amazon, Walmart. Who else did he say? He said a litany of them. But
We can't.
And then saying that somehow this would promote economic prosperity, and then at the same time to reevaluate trade agreements on a global scale, and to somehow think we're going to get on top when you're really taking one of our top tier. There's tiers to which nations we trade with that have they help promote economic interests of the United States, and you're taking one of them that actually gives us safety, security, along with other things, and you're saying that is your first target. I don't know where the rest of your economic plan comes into play, but you're not sounding like a liberal. You sure as hell not a conservative. You sound exactly like the progressives, like an AOC, like a Kamala. Roger's right, and I'm sorry, but you sound more like that. You're just adding Christianity and thinking that somehow you can cover under the conservative.
Astro, he's calling you a hypocrite and a fake patriot. Do you understand that your desire to borrow and spend and do economic intervention is anti-American and low IQ? It's stupid, Astro. Wake up.
Wait, hold on. I know you're not a free market capitalist, and neither is Trump, and I'm glad you're pointing this out. I'm glad you're pointing this out. Shut the fuck up. I'm going to ask you a question, retard. Here's the question for you. In your economic nationalism, where are you going to get rubber from?
Trade. Regulate trade.
Wait, hold on. So, you acknowledge that you might need rubber, right?
Well, I'm not against trading. We just gotta do fair trade, not free trade.
Oh, fair trade. And fair trade is you putting your hand on the scale to create a tax that the consumers have to pay for. That's what you call fair trade?
You let the companies eat it up because they have the money to spend.
That's not what happens, though.
If you use the government to
My star. Number
That
16.
never happens. Are you saying that what you want?
happening under Trump. It's happening just Trump actually putting a little bit of pressure on these companies. That's why prices have not gone up significantly.
Wait. Hold on. So now you're telling me that you're for price controls?
It just
But
depends.
do you support price controls? Yes or no?
I'm not. I don't think there's anything wrong with the state pressuring companies to actually have affordable prices.
Do you support price controls? Yes or no?
I think that answers my question.
I think you're a fucking retard. I'm done with it. I'm gonna have a fucking aneurysm.
Astro,
No, shut the fuck up, Lordness. I'm gonna bring this guy back up in a second. I literally need to go walk the fucking dog. You guys have this fucking room. I'm gonna come back. We'll shit down his neck a little bit more. But I swear to Christ, I'm gonna have to take a goddamn blood pressure pill. This is fucking crazy. This is a fucking Republican. This is a Trump supporter. I hope you're listening. Brad, hello. Fucking Edward, hello. You people that are voting for Republicans, hello. What have I been telling you guys? What have I been telling you? That the Republicans are a bunch of anti-capitalists just like the fucking leftists. And you just fucking heard this guy advocating for this shit. I hope you guys heard this. I hope you heard it loud and clear. You guys think I make this shit up. You guys think I pull this shit out of my ass. Listen, I don't know why the fucking God put me on this earth to be the fucking voice of reason. Look, I'm not the fucking hero you deserve, but I'm the one you fucking got. You guys need to start listening to me. When I tell you that fucking Trump is an anti-capitalist, you need to fucking acknowledge it. Moving forward, hopefully you will understand that when I tell you these things, I'm here to help you.
Roger, I've never discounted your critiques of Trump. I've never considered Trump a conservative. I've stated that many times, and we've had many fucking rooms together bashing Trump's economic interventionist policies, as well as his failures to actually live up to the promises that this guy down below has done. So please walk the dog, take your blood pressure, have a Diet Coke. Like we hear it. There's just what do you want me to do as a conservative? I am the outs of the party. They have it. It's the same thing you are with the Libertarian Party. We're fringe. We're no longer relevant. They don't want to listen to us, and they want to just they want to slide down that mountain head first without a skis or anything to help them on a rope. They just want to go down that way, and they just want the culture. They don't want anything else. They just want to have a religious versus anti-religious culture.
This country has become the Soviet Union of America, not the United States of America anymore. We can't just keep borrowing and spending. Economic intervention doesn't work. It's anti-American, it's low IQ, it's stupid. It's just kicking the can down the road. Wake the fuck up.
Economic intervention gave us 3% growth.
No, look, what we need to do is get rid of a majority clause that are regulating our corporations in terms of technology, weaponry, all that, and improve our type of technology and weaponry over time. We would become more of a threat in comparison to other nations. And I mean, hey, we could get a lot more from other nations.
I think we should actually decrease regulation that actually incentivizes mega corporations from growing. I think that's one thing the libertarians you could correct. I think Ron Stonso believes that. So I'm not against that. But we still need some regulation of the economy.
No, we shouldn't have any form of regulation on the economy, no.
Esther, in the Constitution, what agency is specifically called out? What is the one agency that the Constitution actually delivers to the American people? Do you know what it is, Esther?
I didn't. Not lie me, America.
It's the Census Bureau. That's the only agency in our Constitution. Do we need the CIA? Do we need the FBI? Do we need the NSA? Do we need this and that and 350 other agencies? Do they have to keep getting funding, Astro?
Yeah, I think that a lot of these agencies you can absolutely, do away with, or you could subvert them and use them for your own political interests. Either way, it's fine by me. So, I'm not against that.
Astro, I've got a question for you. And please don't say anything that irritates me. What is the 30-year period in U.S. history that had the most economic growth? Can you tell me?
I'm guessing, if I had to guess, I don't know, but maybe after Reagan, I think that's what you're going to say.
No, fuck Reagan.
Even earlier than that. So, like during the 20s, the roaring 20s?
no, there was, at the end of the 20s, we had a depression, for fuck's sake.
Well, I know that's what I was thinking, though. Maybe that's when they had the mass crash, but go for it.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Zam, why are you speaking while I'm speaking? I'm moving you down, I'll move you back up, learn some fucking manners. So, the 30-year period
Explain away.
Deregulation. I rest my case.
And then you had the Gilded Age, and you had massive backlash against that from the workers. And also the rise of socialism in the United States as well.
Hold on. Yes. No, you're right. You're right. Let me talk about this. So we had a 30-year period where economic expansion was the shit. And then this country got poisoned by a bunch of fucking leftist shit fucking tards. And they come in and they unwind all this stuff and they start getting romanced by these fucking leftists in Europe. And they decided to start moving in the direction that you want to move, where you want to control the economy. And then look at this. You go from the most economic growth from 1870 to 1900, and by 1929 there's a goddamn collapse. And the worst economic time comes between then and then the end of the World War II. And then by the end of World War II, then we were prosperous again. So I want to just explain something to you. We have a track record in this country. We can see, we have a long history, 249 years. We can look at the history and we can see the economic prosperity under controlling the economy, and we can look at the economic prosperity when you let the economy go. The most production that we've ever done was in the least regulated time. And what you're calling for is not an easing of restrictions. And actually, I want to eliminate almost all regulations. You don't even want to ease them. You want to go the other direction. You want to take your fucking fascist fist, put it on the goddamn scale, and you want to put it down. Look, all you have to do is read fucking history. Your ideas have been tried and they fucking failed. They've been tried multiple times and they've failed multiple times. This is the funny thing, though. For those of you listening, he's not a Democrat. These wacky ideas, he believes he can achieve these goals through Donald Trump. This is a guy that does not believe in free market capitalism, and he wants to push these ideas through the Republican Party under Donald Trump. You guys need to get your shit together. Clean your fucking backyard, guys.
Yeah, what I would say to that is that, if FDR, if Teddy Roosevelt and all these other people who were more economically liberal didn't do what they did, the socialists would have gone in power. They would have revolted against the United States in the early 1930s, and we wouldn't have our way of life at all. So sometimes appeasing the populace, even at the expense of economic development, is a good thing, especially if it means, helping average individual people's lives, okay? The GDP is not supreme. Wall Street is not supreme, okay? And ultimately what actually is supreme is the average American. That is the way to go. Now, I think most people will agree with that. We just have different ways of actually achieving that. I think Mojo would say it's deregulation. I would say it is more economic interventionism. That means stimulus checks. Give me my $1,000 rebate.
There you go. This guy's
there. That's what I'm saying. And that's how you...
I'm moving the retard back down. You guys can bring him back up if you want to fucking have a say. Look, this guy's not a fucking Republican. He's not a conservative. He's not a capitalist. He's none of those things. That is a fucking leftist, okay? That is a leftist. And what he's doing is he's trying to get his ideas passed because he doesn't think that the Democrat Party, because they're out of power, can get any of these ideas done. You guys have let this guy into your fucking camp. I can't believe. Why do I have to be the one to police this shit? Can I please have a real fucking conservative stand up and say Donald Trump's a fucking idiot? That fucking guy that supports Donald Trump's policies is a fucking idiot. Tariffs are a fucking tax on consumers. And stand up. Where the fuck are the capitalists in this fucking room? If there is a single capitalist outside of me in this room, please fucking speak now.
Well, the owners of this stupid app aren't capitalists. Where's the ads in this fucking room? Where's the rev share? They got their payout already, I guess a couple $100 million, and they're just going to sit there and do nothing with it. But, it's opportunities like this to identify the problem, which is former speakers who believe in borrowing and spending infinitely to grow the economy, to get us out of debt. The problem is Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the NDAA, $1 trillion for defense, and $1 trillion on the interest payments. It is unsustainable. It's a death spiral. In my opinion, everything else is political. Maybe even the debt is political because it's all fucking fiat. So, like Mojo said, either we break it or we fix it. Or I think the third option would be we do nothing and we just continue to spend at, a $2 trillion a year deficit, and we fuck the rest of the world who has invested in our fucking Ponzi scheme.
But what we do need is an improvement on innovation and technology.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Corporations and the population to
And all that
support these
comes from
corporations.
the private sector. You realize that? Like, there's no federal fucking government. There's nowhere in the federal fucking government that creates, a fucking new rocket. Elon Musk for SpaceX created more advances than NASA did since the fucking Challenger exploded. I'm still confused. Like, I mean, Elon Musk hasn't been around, SpaceX hasn't been around his own, so I'm kind of confused. The innovations that you speak of that you want, they're not created by the federal government. They buy them. They'll fucking pay for contracts to develop them, but those planes that you talk about, they're built by private companies. They innovate them, and then the government spends all of your tax money literally on those planes.
I agree, but I mean, being more of a mass production rate type of mentality for the main government itself.
Wait, hold on. Can we go back to the fact that the guy fucking said that what we need to do is send out more stimulus checks? Like, he said we should send out more stimulus checks. And then I'm sure you guys have voted for Trump or just like, oh, that's nonsense. That sounds like something Democrats would do. Well, I don't know if you guys forgot. That motherfucking Trump, he was spending like a drunk fucking liberal. That guy was giving out stimulus checks. This guy just wants more of them. This is what I honestly think. I think that the stimulus check that dude got is probably the fucking biggest check he's ever been handed in his fucking life. And he's like, fuck, Donald Trump fucking cut me a nice little check. Hopefully he'll cut me some more. And I just gotta say, you fucking Republicans, man, you better do better. If in 2028 you don't fucking get a capitalist in here, we're all fucked.
Well, Roger, I mean, to a certain extent with my ideology, in some way it does have capitalism.
You don't have an ideology. You have a fucking incarnation. Your idea is that you don't need a government. Listen, I don't want regulation of the market, but I do fucking recognize that government does have a role, which is why we should talk about what the rights of man is, and that's why we should talk about what the role of government is. We should have a strong military. It should be able to kick everybody's ass. Doesn't mean we need to go picking fights like we do, but we should absolutely have a strong military. We need a police force. Why do we need that? Because some of you fucking degenerates are committing crime, and your little panty asses need to go into a jail cell. And in order to get you in the jail cell after you've been apprehended, we need to put you in a court of law, which means that we need courts. So we need courts, we need police, and we need the military. Everything else should be negotiable. You guys just heard from a Trump supporter that said he wants to expand the government, and he wants to put the hand on the scale of the economy, because he doesn't believe that the leftists have done enough to put their hand on the scale. He doesn't think that they've given enough of your tax dollars away. He doesn't believe that the fiat currency where they continue to print and then just send checks, he wants additional checks. This guy probably supports UBI. This guy, he doesn't have a capitalist bone in his body. And you fucking guys all have one thing in common. You motherfuckers voted for Trump. Shame on all of you.
Is it him or Camilla?
I mean, you do realize that Kamala and Waltz would have redirected the money and expanded the debt dramatically compared to what Trump and his administration are doing. And the fact is, the borrowing and the spending is unsustainable. I don't know if you watched Chairman Powell's remarks yet today, but he kept rates fixed. And, Trump wants them to lower rates. I mean, we can have negative rates if we wanted in this country, but a banking cartel, a monopoly organization, controls the fucking interest rates in this country instead of we, the voters, we, the taxpayers, or our elected representatives. You have no control over the interest rate because a group of a cartel controls it and it's law. I mean, it's a problem.
Yes, I'll take
if it's not religion, well then it's racial identity politics, and that's what we have and continue to have. There's DEI everywhere still.
So let me read you guys something. And this is back when Republicans had brains. You guys can tell me who this quote came from. I'll read a few quotes. The benefits of free trade are clear, and the arguments against it are always made by those seeking special privilege. That's quote. Number two, the appropriate answer to most problems in trade is not to add restrictions, but to eliminate them. Here's a third point. The case for free trade is as close to a scientific consensus in economics as you can get. Anyone want to guess where those three quotes came from? Anyone?
John Smith.
No. Somebody way more visionary than
Friedman, Milton Friedman.
There you go, Milton Friedman. Yeah, Milton Friedman. And you know why he said that? Because he understood that free trade is the fucking answer, deregulation. So any of you, for whatever reason you're doing it, is simping for tariffs, you are going against the most fucking basic principles of free market capitalism. You are fucking simping for the wrong side. So just because your fucking guy is in office and said tariffs are a good idea, and because you're cranky to China because they were kicking your ass because we weren't as innovative as we should have been, you guys can't sell out your fucking principles in a generation just because Trump became president. Milton Friedman should be your guiding fucking light, not Donald Trump. And those of you that sit here and advocate for tariffs, you are not fiscal conservatives. You're not even students of economics.
Look at the numbers on the tariffs. They've only taken in 150 billion. That's 10 days of federal spending. That's not a reduction in spending. That doesn't pay down the debt. That does nothing. It moves the needle nowhere. So anybody, it has been the lamest and longest conversation about tariffs. It's meaningless communication.
There's a lot of exceptions to it also on the tariffs. I was trying to
Are you
figure out.
pro-tariff, Abby?
No, I am ordering a new freaking car from Germany. It's been a pain in the ass trying to figure out what it's going to cost me. So right now, I'm definitely not in favor of them. But no, I've never. That's not something. No, I wouldn't say I was in favor of them. What he's using with strategy right now, I definitely thought it was interesting how things played out with Canada, though. I do want to say that. But I just want to say, I think there's exceptions in these tariffs with the different countries, and definitely with Europe. And I'm trying to read, it as it's happening in real time. Maybe you guys have more insight into it as to what the carve-outs are on what will not be governed by it.
Well, we're going to 40 trillion in debt.
With Europe in particular, I'm curious, the carve-outs.
So here's the important thing to consider with free trade, right? That moron, he's back on the stage, he likes to use this word that he borrowed from the left called fair trade. Fair trade just simply means that you get to control what happens with the trade, so you don't like it to be free. Which, by the way, free trade is the biggest weapon against war. Everyone knows that. Nebraska. But here's something to think about. Within free trade, if you find that there's a country that you don't like the way that that they're, let's say you don't like their stance on human rights or whatever the fucking excuse you're going to come up with of why you don't like them, right? Let's say they're a bunch of commie bastards. They'll say they're building a war machine against you. Let's say they sponsor terrorism, right? There are ways within free trade that you can just say, okay, I'm not going to get my rice from them. I'm not going to get my rubber from them. I'm not going to get my steel from them. You just have to seek it out elsewhere. If you want free trade, doesn't mean nobody says we have to trade with China. But the idea that you're going to put a tariff on it is stupid. If there's something that China exclusively has, whether it's a fucking mineral or finished good, really, what China does for the world, and you should recognize this, what they do well, is they manufacture efficient, where there's competition that is beating them. So you want to protect the company that has failed to innovate to a degree that you would choose them at a higher price, or it's going to be somebody else has manufactured something better. It's either better or cheaper, right? And so the only thing tariffs protect, the only industry that tariffs protect, are those that are inefficient. If you have an efficient industry here, you support tariffs?
No.
Shirley, do you support tariffs?
I don't have an opinion about this. I do know that I don't know enough. And anybody, you should cut a check. We all should get, cut a check needs not to.
All right, hold
You
on.
don't need to have a conversation with
Shirley, love you pieces, but I'm doing a roll call here. So I've got it right now. I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nays and 1 yay. Time out, do you support tariffs?
Yeah, I don't know enough about it, Russ, and you know, the more I know about, so I'll pass right now.
Yeah, time out knows about love. If you guys want to get filled up with love, talk to time out. JB, do you support tariffs?